Well, it was all part of the Alexander McGillney acquisition, actually. I wasn't expecting McGillney to arrive on our doorstep until probably he'd played at least another Olympics, which would have been 4 more years. And then it would be a heavy price to pay to get him out of there, even if we could, because he and Bure and Fedorov were the meat of the Russian Olympic team for the next 15 years to come. When we get the call after the season that he wants to come out, was when I started to realize that if we're going to have a guy like McGillney on our team who can outrace a rabbit from a dead stop with the puck and control and shoot it like a rocket from 60 feet, I said we need to get a lot faster, better support for him. Pierre had to be in the deal with LaFontaine. They wanted McGillney. And I said to Bill Torrey, I said, that's why we're trading for LaFontaine, because we need a guy to play with McGillney, who is as fast as him and as creative as him. So McGillney's not in the deal. So he said, okay, what about Turgeon? I said, well, actually, that was the guy I thought would be a fair trade, basically because I admired Pierre a lot. He had a great couple seasons, and he was a real good young man. But Pierre was the kind of a player that didn't speed the game up. He was crafty, you know, and he was the kind of guy that would work his way down the ice. But he wasn't an explosive player. He was a cagey, chess-playing kind of guy. And I could see him and McGillney together, and I didn't see it fitting. And I didn't see Pierre as a second-line guy. And I didn't see us making the trade to LaFontaine without one of those two guys going. So that's basically the story behind it. I waited a year to make it happen. And Torrey and I talked about it for over a year because he was trying to save the guy. He thought, yeah, I don't want to see LaFontaine not finish his career as an Islander. But he had a tough agent who had a demand, and he held out, and I think it became something that they realized was inevitable. The blood had turned sour, and they had to make the move.
I was excited. Obviously, when you're not playing, it's tough sitting at home. But when I heard it was the Sabres and knew that they had some talent, obviously, in McGillney and Howard Chuck and Anderchuk, I got excited. And a lot of other players, obviously. And when I first went there, it was like, I think when you get traded for the first time, it's tough leaving and it's tough being traded, but then it's like being a rookie all over again. Things are fresh, things are new, and I was really excited to go to Buffalo.
I think Pat, garnished a lot playing with Alex. Alex could, he was arguably maybe the best player in the league. That he could dominate a game, dominate teams. He was just unbelievable as far as I was concerned. And with Pat, they hit it off together, and they, on the power play, you wouldn't want to face them too often.
Chemistry and the style of play. Coach Muckler had a high tempo. Both, Coach Muckler at the time, and of course Coach Ted Nolan came in later, but they like high tempo, a lot of speed, a lot of forechecking, a lot of pressure. And Alex is one of the most, if not the most talented player I've ever played with or watched in practice, and watched his skill and his speed from blue line to blue line. I still say he's the fastest guy I've ever seen. Just from a dead start, blue line to blue line, you're not going to catch him. And then we had Dave Anderchuk, and really we ended up, I think, trading Dave later that year. And I think if we would have kept Dave, we would have been the only line in the history of hockey where all 3 players actually scored 50 goals in one season. He ended up going to Toronto and scoring 55, I believe. But, Alex had great speed, and Dave Anderchuk had great hands in front of the net. And we had a real potent power play with Howard Chuck and McGillney and Audette. It just seemed there was a sixth sense. I would kind of have a sense where Alex would be and vice versa, and then Dave would come in and great hands in front of the net, picking up rebounds, tipping pucks, and it was just a real good mix.
Pat was a pretty smart kid. He talked to Alex all the time, and there was a certain bond there, and he was just looking for his tape, and Pat did a good job with his speed to get open and create those passing lanes, and Andy had such a good knack and feel for the game that he knew where to go. He didn't have to skate. He just went to a spot and he knew where to go. So that was a pretty unique line.
Yeah, that was a magic year. I mean, one of the things I can remember is At the time, I was the chairman of the general managers committee, so we used to meet all the time, 3 or 4 times a year in groups and sessions and so on. Harry Sinden used to say, those 2 guys are the best 2 hockey players in the league right now. The only problem LaFontaine's got is if Lemieux comes back from his cancer, and which he did and won the scoring championship, I think, in the last week, playing about 30 fewer games. You know, the remarkable thing about that year for Alex, he scored 76 goals, I think, whatever the number was. And he probably missed 15, 20 breakaways. Miss with a shot, you know, he was legitimately not that far away from scoring 100 goals.
His personality, he was just quiet. He liked to be the guy that kind of sat in the corner and, you know, just kind of blended in, and then he would kind of streak into the limelight for a little bit, get into his business, and then kind of hide back in the corner again. And you had to know that about Alex. His personality was similar to the way he played. He was very dynamic. All of a sudden, you'd see him darting up the ice, make a couple of quick moves, and the next thing you know, he'd score a big goal, and then he would kind of skate off to the side. And he really didn't want all that attention, but his skill was so great and his talent was so great that, you know, I remember telling him, yeah, Alex, just give me the puck and go to the net, go to your spots, and you know, let's work off of each other. And we got Dave Andrechuk here coming up and picking up any of the extra, you know, in the slot, any extra pucks.
I remember stepping on the ice training camp first time and seeing him and Patty going, I don't know if this is the right league for me. They were that good. They were incredible. The 2-step from him getting a breakaway, and Patty was just obviously an unbelievable player.
And a person.
Yeah.
You know, Patty was the nicest guy in the world, and you know, he was probably too nice to play the game. That was his problem. He should have been. He was so good at it, but you know, you see him now. He's so successful at other things because the type of person he is. But during the game, probably in that era, he was probably way too nice. My biggest memory of Pat LaFontaine was we had a big fight in Chicago Stadium, and Belfour, everybody was in it. And I had 2 guys just giving it to me. Patty literally crawled under the pile and he stuck his gloves out to me and he says, raise it. And I'm like, I'm looking, trying to see, and the others are hitting me. He says, put your face in here, it'll protect you, put your face in my gloves. So he literally, you know, crawled under the pile, give me his gloves to put on my face to protect from these 2 guys hammering away at me. So that was the kind of guy he was.
He gave him for the other 300 fights.
He was a little too late.